Doug Ford has only been Ontario's premier for 5 months, and the people of Ontario are already waking up to him. Check out this poll. Majority of Ontarians disapprove of Doug Ford's job performance. According to the latest campaign research poll, Ford's approval rating with respect to his job performance took a hit, with results coming in at 37% approval and 63% disapproval of his performance. Specifically, 41% of men and 34% of women approved of his performance. So 37% approval rating is a low ass number. And both men and women more disapprove than approve of him. Now, even though men are higher there, which isn't surprising to me, it's still only at 41% and 34% approval. Now, I talked about this before or after the election, that if you added the left-wing parties together, the major left-wing parties together, the Green Party voters, the NDP voters, and the Liberal voters, there are more voters for the Liberal version or the left-wing version of policy than there is for the PCs. So if you add the Greens, the Liberals, and the NDP voters together, you get almost 1 million more votes than what the PCs got in the election. The majority of people in Ontario are not supporting Doug Ford or his policies. Never did. And it's only getting worse. Now, why would it be getting worse now? So I guess people weren't aware of who Doug Ford was before, but with his policies, especially on labor, they are now waking up. Most of those polled preferred the Liberals' labor legislation rather than Ford's recent announcements, with the majority of Ontarians, 52%, opposing the freezing of the minimum wage at $14 an hour until 2020, compared to 42% who support it. Quote, saying you want to make Ontario open for business doesn't appear to be enough justification for rolling back popular labor reforms, said Eli Ufest, CEO of Campaign Research, adding that as Kathleen Wynne starts to fade from memory among the Ontario electorate, the Liberals seem to be regaining consideration from Ontarians. So that's just one policy, but there's more. I'm going to get to that in a second, but I want to really focus on this for a second. The majority of people in Ontario are against freezing the minimum wage at $14 an hour. Yet Doug Ford, with his majority government, still froze the wages at $14 an hour. Again, I have said this, and I'm going to continue saying this. Doug Ford isn't for the people, as his campaign slogan says. He is for the rich people. Everything he does with these labor reforms benefits the wealthiest people in Ontario and hurts everyone else. So let me get to more details here. The other aspects of that poll that people were asked about was where Doug Ford reversed a law that requires employees to be paid for 3 hours if their shift was canceled within 48 hours of its start. So that was a protection for employees that Doug Ford reversed. So it's not surprising that 56% of Ontarians opposed what Doug Ford did there, compared to 34% who support it. Another one, Doug Ford reinstated a law allowing employers to require a doctor's note for minor illnesses, like we're in fucking high school. So Doug Ford reinstating that law requiring a doctor's note, 55% of people in Ontario oppose it. Only 39% support it. Another one here. The least popular labor reform rollback among all of these is the removal of 2 paid sick days. So Doug Ford took away 2 paid sick days that the previous Liberal government gave us. 77% of Ontarians oppose Doug Ford taking away 2 paid sick days, which really should not be all that surprising. That is, only 17% favor it. That means even among Doug Ford supporters, there is division on this policy. Half of his own supporters don't support him taking away 2 paid sick days. Now, that should wake people up to the reality that Doug Ford is not for people. He, again, I have to say, I say this every time because it really needs to be said. Doug Ford was born into wealth. He inherited his business from his dad. His father was an MPP. His brother was the mayor of Toronto. Doug Ford has had every connection and all the money he will ever need. Doug Ford has no idea what life is like for the average person, which is why he can go in, freeze wages, take away paid sick days, require employees to give a doctor's note to their employers if they're sick. That's why he can go in and do all these things, because he doesn't give a fuck about anybody. So, again, if you voted for this moron, for this asshole, just understand who you voted for. Look at the actual policies he is implementing. How do any of these benefit you? So, I never really know how to end these videos, because to me, all this shit is so effing obvious. But if it's not obvious to you, maybe you just weren't aware of it. But if hopefully you're being informed now, you can go and look at this yourself. Honestly, search this up yourself. Go on Google, look up these policies, look at what I'm saying. Don't just believe me. I'm not Doug Ford. I'm not going to, lie to you and say, "Oh, I'm for the people," and then do a bunch of bullshit that is completely opposite of that. No. Fact check me. Look it up yourself and tell me how these policies help you.